Hello everyone in our VIP group. The video footage that I'm going to share with you today is never before shared information that I have only shared with a select few people in my life. It is never before shared information that has led me into why I do paranormal investigating, why I decided to face my fears. Before I go through explaining exactly what this is, what my experience was, I'm going to share a clip with you that I took a couple nights ago. It was an episode of Ghost Hunters, and I tend to watch different types of paranormal shows. And the reason being is because I like getting ideas for investigating. So, Ghost Hunters, they share this information, and it took place, the episode itself took place in 2013. Time-wise is very fascinating. And the clip that I go into detail and explaining, I took about a month ago when I decided to watch a documentary. I intend to delve more into the research and maybe see about connecting some dots somewhere. If you've had this experience yourself, or if you know of any children that have had similar experiences, please share them with me. And I implore you to watch the video all the way through. Let me know what you think. Ta-ta for now.
So what has been one of the strangest experiences you've had over the years of investigating?
When you were a baby, I went on a series of cases, and the weirdest thing was they were all in different states. These people had no connection, except that every single one of them, their children, claimed to see a man in this top hat, described him to the T.
Was there a pattern to it?
A couple kids would tell us that he would sit there and he'd wave like this.
Have you ever looked it up? Have you ever heard anybody?
I researched it for years. Remember when I had the map downstairs? That was it. Yellow tax and red tax. It was showing which state he was going and where. It was the weirdest thing in the world. It was driving me insane now because I couldn't piece it together. I couldn't understand why.
Hello everyone. So I am in the midst of doing some research here. I decided to buy a documentary. Very interesting one. And as you all know, paranormal investigator here, part of the Heart team, family team here. I sent an email a long time ago to Paranormal Survivor over my experiences my whole life. And lo and behold, they had responded to me, and I never got an opportunity to see that email years ago. And I was telling Melinda about it, and I had sent her the very same email, I believe. I showed it to her, read it to her, and then sent it to her as well. But back to the documentary. So what's fascinating is over my experiences throughout my entire life, I have experienced one specific entity specifically. And I was very young, and I first dreamt of him when I was 7, and I played a game with him. It was a card game. I remember sitting on a bench, and I looked up at him, and he had no facial features at all. I couldn't. He was completely cloaked in black, and me being of a more innocent, kind mind, was accepting to speak with him. And I asked him what his name was, and he said he didn't have a name. And I pulled out a Jack card, and I said, "How about Jack? We'll call you Jack." And he said, "Sounded good." And I had another dream about him later on, and Jack was getting upset that I hadn't been giving him any attention. And it got to the point where years later he was very angered by me when I dreamt of him again. Um, I never saw him vividly with my own eyes outside of the dream realm that I can recall. I saw a silhouetted man and coming down the stairs, and I was just a child back then when I had seen that. Anyways, so I dreamt of this guy. And then there was one night when I was 13, my sister, Katie, had told me about this person she saw on the highway. And that very same night, she saw this entity in my brother's room. And it fit the exact description of the man that I would dream of as a child, which is very strange. And I asked her if I've ever told her the story about Jack. And she said she hadn't heard me mention anything. I tend to keep stories to myself back then because my parents led me to believe that spirits weren't real, that it was all in my head type thing. So, anyways, saw this documentary. And it's called The Hatman, a docu-series on pure evil. And it's about a hat man, a man that's a silhouetted figure with a top hat and a trench coat. And no one has truly seen any distinguishable features. Some may have seen eyes within the silhouette, but a silhouette shadow person is basically a spirit of sorts that hasn't fully manifested to full form. So you're only seeing almost like you would see your own shadow. Anyways, the docuseries is about this Hatman. This Hatman. This is a picture I drew when I was in 8th grade. And this is a poem that I wrote about him. He's back. He walks through the halls. He's watching through my walls. He's the one that's in my head. He's now the bugs that's in my bed. He's in my closet when I'm asleep, and most definitely gives me the creeps. He's the scary howl of the wind, and this time there is no end. He's back. Jack. And I used to be terrified to talk about him, but since I have learned to face my fears as far as the paranormal universe goes, I'm not nearly as terrified to openly talk about my experience. However, I gotta try to find this email that I sent that actually gave detailed encounters of my experiences through my life, if it still exists. But what I found fascinating about the documentary is I'm not the only person to have seen this man. My sister has seen him. I dreamt of him many times. And thousands of people out there apparently have seen him. And I'm just now realizing this freaking documentary is from 2019. And the only reason why I saw this documentary was you may also like Under Portals to Hell, which is a show that I watched with Jack Osborne and Katrina. So it was very fascinating. When I seen that, I was like, what? And I clicked it, I watched the trailer, and I go, oh my God, that's him. And I said, just like what many of those people said as I was watching that, like, there's so many people out there that have apparently experienced this. And there's one paranormal investigator on there who claims that this spirit could be a jinn, which is a form, and there's a lot of explaining to go into it. Just take a moment and Google what a jinn is. It's a spirit that feeds, that manifests and feeds off of fears, negativity, if there's something traumatic going on in your life, such as divorce, pain, loss, suicidal, depression, like those types of things, they feed off of that energy. I don't know if I necessarily believe in a jinn, but if I can believe in an algogor, then I can probably believe in a jinn too. And it is possible that this could be a jinn, or I honestly wonder if the this man that people see is death itself. I always had the inkling of a notion to believe that I was speaking to death itself. Like, we always think of the Grim Reaper with a freaking scythe and a big old cloak and skeletal hands and stuff. But what if it's not? Anyway, my thoughts for now. Ta-ta.